Could Tennessee wide receiver Cedric Tillman be one of the biggest risers during the NFL draft? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Mosher and Kate Magdziuk.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Kate Magdziuk. Follow her on Twitter at Kate Magdziuk. Kate, we are talking about one of the most polarizing receivers in the draft, Cedric Tillman. What did you think?
Marcus, I feel like we say that about every wide receiver. Is there any wide receiver in this class that isn't polarizing, by the way? Because
I think everybody kind of likes Zay Flowers.
everybody kind of likes Zay Flowers, which ironically is the one guy that I haven't been overly high on. So no. I'm gonna go ahead and say there are no unpolarizing wide receivers here in this class. But let's talk about Cedric Tillman, 6'3", 215 pounds, coming out of Tennessee. A really interesting prospect, right? So he's a fifth-year senior, managed an ankle injury through his final season, finished his career, his final year of his collegiate career with 37 catches, 417 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, but had a really solid 2021 season. It was kind of a late breakout. But let's clear the elephant in the room. We talk about how small this receiving class is. He's got the size, right? Like he got the size that we want. And 6'3", 215 pounds, that feels good for us, right? Previous hand measurements, almost 10 inches. We like that. We like big hands. And I have to say that kind of feels on point with what you saw on tape when he was fully healthy. Great hands. I love his ability to play outside. That's where he's going to project in the NFL. He's a good ball tracker. I think he's got enough strength and he plays with physicality. In the 2021 season was a contested catch monster. He was fantastic. And those are all the good things about him. Tell me your thoughts. I want to hear.
All right, I'll start off being positive. The end of the 2021 season for him was phenomenal. I'm going to read you his final 6 games. Against Alabama, 7 for 152 and a touchdown. Against Kentucky, 6 for 79 and a touchdown. Against Georgia, 10 for 200 and a touchdown. South Alabama, 5 for 100 and a touchdown. Vanderbilt, 6 for 106 and 2 touchdowns. Purdue, 7 for 150 and 3 touchdowns. Like posted monster numbers. And I still don't get it. I just don't see it, Kate. I've seen these guys before, these kind of height, weight, speed guys. I think he's going to run like in the high 4.4s. He's just not a separator. Everything feels contested. It seems like it takes him a long time to throttle down to come back to the quarterback. What am I missing here? Because the Dynasty community obviously likes him quite a bit. We'll talk about his value, but I just don't see it.
There's a kind of I had a wide range of feelings for him, right? I actually liked him. I enjoyed watching him more than I did combing through his statistical profile. When I'm doing player evals, it's kind of a 2-step process. I'll watch the tape. I'll take a look at the stats, what matches for me, what doesn't match. And I mean, what matches for me is his ability at the catch point, right? Like 2021 was a contested catch machine. That was fantastic. But where he struggles, yards after the catch, like doesn't really make a lot of plays after the catch because again, so many catches are contested, right? What does that stem from? Probably, not great separation. He has to rely on his strength and physicality a lot, and that was in college. So is he going to be able to win out against these DBs at the NFL level who have much more speed and are probably going to be able to play him even more closely? Like he's going to have to translate everything that he did in college perfectly to the NFL. And we don't see that happen a lot. 5.0 yards after the catch per reception in 2021, his best collegiate season. That ranked 128th among 200 qualifying wide receivers of 50 plus targets. 55 ranked 55th in yards per route run in that same cohort. Not those metrics that you really like to see with those receivers. Had, like I mentioned, a late breakout in the 2021 season as a senior.
All right. So when you watched him, did you have any like comps that came to mind?
No, I feel like I didn't have any.
I've got
player that I grasped. Yeah,
I got
tell
some.
me.
These aren't great, so just prepare yourself. Reminded me a lot of Brian Edwards coming out of South Carolina, kind of that 6'3", 210-pound guy, that physical, but not really a separator. I actually think Brian Edwards was a better route runner coming out of South Carolina, but I could see that. Brandon LaFell, who played for the Panthers and the Patriots a little bit, I could see that. I kind of feel like in the right situation, maybe he could be like what Mac Hollins was for the Raiders this year, as like a number 2 receiver that blocks and can get some red zone targets.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a player that's probably going to see a lot of volatility, right?
Yes.
He feels like the guy that you are going to use in these contested catch situations. But like the thing is, it's kind of like touchdowns, right? I don't want to, rely on looking at just a metric of touchdowns, because those can be such a volatile metric.
Yeah.
Contested catches, I don't want to rely on contested catches. I want to rely on what comes in between the contested catches.
Yes. Something that's a little bit more stable, right?
Yes. Have that stability, because again, no idea how that's going to translate. I do think, Marcus, like, to give him a little bit more credit than I think you did, I liked the way he moved, like when he's coming back to the quarterback, and we saw him do that a lot, the start stop ability. That was, I think, better than I projected, or better than I expected, maybe, for a player of his size and weight. But it felt like I saw him do kind of the same routes, run the same routes over and over again. He would, sometimes be able to sell a guy, pretend he's running a vertical route, come back to the quarterback. I was generally impressed with his ability to start, stop, and then come back to the ball when his quarterback needed him to. But again, it felt like we just kind of saw the same things over and over again, and there wasn't a lot of diversity. So is he a one-trick pony?
Kind of. All right. So usually we talk about potential landing spots and then his dynasty value. We're going to switch things up a little bit because he's a polarizing prospect. We're going to dive into that.
He could go anywhere, Marcus. He could go anywhere.
And that's what we're going to get to next. This episode is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all the fat and calories, then you've got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, got through Valentine's Day. We know summer right around the corner. So you want to try to get in, pool weather shape. Built Bar is going to help you get there, right? Only 130 calories, only 4 grams of sugar, 17 grams of protein. And you guys know all that. The best part about the Built Bars are they taste absolutely fantastic. It's honestly like eating a candy bar, but it's healthy for you. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. And they've got so many unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. My current favorite is the cookie dough bar. Please don't steal all of them. Not sure how Built does it, but they made a protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar. But here's the best news. Usually, or before, you had to go to built.com to order your protein bars, and you still can. They've got a fantastic inventory over there. But now you can just go to your local Walmart and go to the pharmacy section, and you can pick up a 4-bar box of the cookies and cream, or the double chocolate, or the coconut puffs. Or If you live near a Sam's Club like I do, go check out the 13 bar box with some of the hit flavors like brownie batter and churro. You can thank us later. And of course, you can always go to built.com to see all the latest and the best flavors over there. All right, Kate. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about his current value. And before we get to Cedric Tillman's dynasty value, I want to tell you about some of the rankings. So there are some big media types that typically have a pretty good idea of where these guys are going to go, and their rankings reflect that. For example, Lance Zierlein at NFL.com has Cedric Tillman ranked as wide receiver 4 in this class. Mel Kiper Jr. has him ranked.
Is that ahead of his teammate?
No, Jalen Hyatt's 1, according to Lance Zierlein, and Cedric Tillman's 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look, Tennessee, man. Okay.
Yeah. Mel Kiper Jr. has Cedric Tillman at 8, ahead of guys like Keyshawn Boutte, A.T. Perry, Rashee Rice, Tank Dell. I've even seen some other big name people have him ranked inside their top 5. I don't see that, but I've also seen other people have Tillman outside their top 15 receivers. So without talking about dynasty value yet, where do you rank him among the rest of the receivers in this class?
I'm certainly on the lower end, I think. Right now, he's probably right around wide receiver 10, 11 for me.
I 100% agree.
There's just so again, this is the weirdest wide receiver class ever. Like,
yes.
I'm going to be literally splitting hairs when it comes down to this. And, I think we're going to have a really good idea, like you said, especially in terms of measurements, what we're going to get from these players. That might tweak my rankings a little bit, depending on what kind, Tank Dell, if he comes in, measures well, and actually does some drills at the combine, he's going to be creeping up my draft board, right? Because I do think from a skills perspective, he's one of my favorite receivers in this class, but there are so many different variables here that Cedric Tillman's this guy that doesn't really stand out on either end for me.
I agree.
I don't know.
On Dynasty League Football, let's talk about his fantasy value. He's being ranked as wide receiver 9, behind players like Jalen Hyatt, Josh Downs, Keyshawn Boutte, Rashee Rice. Does that feel right to you?
Yeah, that feels. Yeah.
I think that's the range, right?
Yeah, I think that feels right around right. And like some of the names after Cedric Tillman here: Marvin Mims, Xavier Hutchinson, Tyler Scott, Parker Washington, Raheem Jarrett. Like, those are all players that I'd kind of put in that same tier, right? Like,
I agree.
It feels like the appropriate tier for Cedric Tillman, where the range of outcomes could be significant. Yeah, I like him. I liked his tape a lot better than I liked his stats. And I'm like a big stats person. I really like to see, I write my notes as I watch these players. What do I like about their game? What don't I like about their game? And then I want to see if the stats back up my notes. And that's just kind of my process. And he's a guy where the stats didn't really reflect a lot, some of the things that I saw and the things that I did end up liking about him. But the stats definitely backed up the things that I didn't like about him, which is even scarier.
Yep. Let's talk about his current dynasty value overall, ranking him among the other receivers in this class. Just in the league right now. I'm going to name a couple players. You tell me higher or lower. Allen Lazard or Cedric Tillman.
Ugh. Marcus, I don't know.
I'll take Lazard.
Yeah, Allen Lazard, free agent this year, correct?
Yes.
It'll come down to, I think, landing spot for me with Lazard. So that's still a toss up for me, but at point face value right here, right now, I'll take Lazard.
Okay. Zay Jones.
Marcus, these are hard ones. These are very hard ones. As you can tell, we don't coordinate these before. I'll probably take Tillman.
Okay. John Mechie.
Oof. Marcus, dang. I'll take Mechie. But TBD, like I like Mechie better as a prospect, but again, from a health perspective, no idea what that range of outcomes is. But I do think that if he comes back to the league and is able to return to his pre-draft form, then I'll roll with Mechie.
Okay, a couple more. Michael Thomas.
Oh, dang. Marcus, you are so like you are beating me with a baseball bat right now. I'll take Tillman. And that's somebody I've been very patient with Michael Thomas, very patient. But at that point, like I just don't see what situation Michael Thomas could land in this year that would make him worthwhile enough not to take the shot on the young rookie with a whole future ahead.
Allen Robinson.
Marcus. These
I think it's so gross. I know.
I guess I'll take Allen Robinson.
We're in that
splitting hairs.
We're in that really weird spot of rankings for the receivers, like outside of the top 60, and there's some guys that have not played yet, or some guys that have been wide receiver ones yet. They're just clearly declining. It's just a weird spot to rank Cedric Tillman. I do feel like landing spot is going to be what kind of decides where he goes with his value.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting prospect here for, again, all of these receivers. I can't wait until we have some of this combine data and we can really start to like nail down our rankings, because this year feels like more than any year since I've been in the industry where combine measurements are going to matter more, especially for this wide receiver position, than any other year that I can remember.
All right, let's talk about some potential landing spots and where he might end up in the NFL draft next. All right, Kate, we are talking about Cedric Tillman, wide receiver from Tennessee, and where he might land in the 2023 NFL draft. I actually texted somebody a couple days ago asking, "Hey, where do you see Tillman?" Like, because me being as dumb as I am, I said, like, what, 4th, 5th round? They said, you can write it in pen that he goes in round 2. And I was like, what? So
what?
Apparently he is a lock to go in round 2. Get to somebody that would know believes he's going in round 2. So, Kate, with that said, where would you like to see him land?
I am shocked. First of all, Marcus, I am truly shocked by this revelation here. How about Chicago at 54? If we're gonna peg him, like,
I mean, sure.
We've talked about Chicago a million times, and it seems like every wide receiver is getting drafted to Chicago. But most of the wide receivers that we've been talking about that are being mocked to Chicago feel like Darnell Mooney types. I do feel like I don't really think that Cedric Tillman is the answer for their wide receiver needs. But if we're, just considering a bigger bodied type wide receiver that might provide, contested catch opportunities for Justin Fields, if we're going to invest in that development, maybe. Jets.
I don't love
44?
it. I don't like. I mean,
Cleveland. I don't know.
All right. How about Tampa? Right. I mean, I wonder how much longer Mike Evans is going to be in Tampa. Chris Godwin's a slot receiver. They really don't have anything else. I mean,
Cedric Tillman is not Mike Evans.
No, he's not. But could he play on the outside and block a little bit and do some of the dirty work?
It just feels like a wasted pick, Marcus. Like, they have so many holes in that roster Like
I
Cedric
agree.
Tillman is not a foundational wide receiver. He is not a franchise-changing wide receiver like Jamar Chase is. Like, so
I agree.
investing one of the it feels unhinged to me. How would you feel about him to the New York Giants? 58.
That feels like a spot where I can kind of get behind it, right? Like,
I get more on board with that.
yeah, and it I don't think it moves the needle a lot for the Giants on offense, but it does give them somebody who has some size that can play on the outside a little bit. Wan'Dale Robinson is obviously going to play in the slot. I I think that makes a lot of sense, but if you're a Giants fan, I don't think Cedric Tillman in the second round moves the needle at all.
Here's the thing, Marcus. I don't think any franchise
That's my issue.
in the second
Yeah.
round is going to look at Cedric
Yeah.
Tillman and have you know, a franchise changing asset. That's my issue with him potentially going in the second round is that I don't know that he is going to move the needle enough for anybody to justify that draft capital,
I agree.
especially when there are so many receivers in a very similar tier that I think can be drafted later on, maybe Kansas City 64,
Maybe.
where he doesn't have to be wide receiver 1. And
I would also mention the Raiders, not with their first, second round pick, which I think pick 38, 39, but like pick 70, 71. Mac Hollins is a free agent. If they just want to get somebody that's, can kind of do the blocking role and can be a red zone threat, I could see that making some sense. But again, even that at 71, I feel like is high.
it feels high. I second round, like I can't buy into that. And whatever team bites the bullet in the second round, I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I'm
We're not gonna
gonna,
love it.
no, I'm not gonna love it. But hey, this is what makes the NFL draft so special. Anything can happen. But
Yes. And I hope for Tillman's sake, he just goes out and destroys the combine and he makes us eat our words. He runs a
yeah,
4.40 and he has a 39.5-inch vertical. Like all of a sudden we're talking about him in a different light because he's just a supreme athlete. So I would love to be wrong here. Love to be wrong.
absolutely. Lots to learn in the next
Yes.
couple of days. Can't wait.
All right. Thank you for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. Kate, you and I are going to be back on Monday. Talk a little bit about some of the stuff that happened at the NFL Combine. Also going to talk about Marvin Mims, wide receiver from Oklahoma. Really excited about that one. Now make your second listen to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Damian Parsons and Keith Sanchez provide in-depth coverage of the biggest NFL draft prospects with deep dives into sleepers and hidden gems that can change your favorite NFL franchise forever. Find Locked On NFL Draft wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Go follow Kate on Twitter at Kate Magdziuk. I am at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy the rest of the combine, and we'll see you guys right back here next week.